Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good day, everyone. uh, my name is Latif Salih Taiwo from University Unisaraj, and today, inshallah, my presentation today is titled Effectiveness of Current Sharia Risk Disclosure Practice in Malaysia Takaful Operator. So, this study was conducted by our research team from the Faculty of Islamic Study at Unisaraj, Malaysia. Now, let's move on to the background. So, let's begin with brief background. The Islamic finance industry in Malaysia continues to grow rapidly, and and this growth increases the importance of strong Sharia governance, especially for Takaful operators. Takaful companies must be ensured that all their operations fully comply with Sharia principles. Failure to do so creates what we call Sharia risk. The risk of non-compliance due to weakness in governance, operations, and product structures or internal controls. Regulators like Bank Negara Malaysia and IAOIF have repeatedly emphasized the need for transparency Sharia risk disclosure. However, in practice, the level of Sharia disclosure among Malaysian Takaful operators remain inconsistency. This inconsistencies is what we motivated our study. So let's now move on to the problem statement. Sharia risk disclosure practice differ widely. So the main problem addressed in this research is that Sharia risk disclosure among Takaful operators is uneven. Some operators provide details and comprehensive information, while others disclose only very minimal details. These inconsistencies affect transparency, accountability, and stakeholder confidence. When disclosures are limited or unclear, stakeholders cannot properly understand how Sharia risks are being managed. Therefore, it becomes important to evaluate whether the current disclosure practices are effectively and whether they meet regulatory expectation. So now, let's move on to the objective of the study. Our study has three main objectives. First, to assess the current level of Sharia risk disclosure among Malaysian Takaful operators. Second, to identify any gaps or weakness in the reporting practice. And the last one, to determine whether existing disclosures accurately reflect the true state of Sharia risk management within the industry. Now let's go. Let's move on to the research question. So this objective lead us to three research questions. Number one question is, how effective are the current Sharia risk disclosure practice? That's number one question. The second one is, what weakness exists particularly in governance reporting, risk management, and the disclosure of non-compliance cases? And the last one is, are the disclosure aligned with the standards set by Bank Negara Malaysia and IAOIFI? So now let's move on to the literature review. The literature review shows that Sharia disclosure is a key part of Sharia governance. Bank Negara Malaysia Sharia governance framework emphasizes clear structure, accountability, and transparent reporting. The accountability and assurance theory support this by stating that institutions must disclose sufficient information so stakeholders can evaluate the integrity of their Sharia compliance. Previously study consistently highlight the same pattern: strong governance disclosed by weak operational risk reporting and limited transparency about Sharia non-compliance incidents. International standards such as AAOIFI governance standard 7 also require comprehensive disclosure of Sharia risk, monitoring mechanism, and documentation of non-compliance events. Those frameworks form the basis of our evaluation. Though now, let's move on to the methodology of this research. This study uses a qualitative research design because Sharia disclosure require interpretation and contextual understanding. We use two methods. The first is a document review of annual report, Sharia committee report, and the relevant guideline issued by BNM, Bank Negara Malaysia, and IAOIFI. Second, seminar structure, interview with Sharia officers, compliance managers, and risk management staff from selected Takaful operators. All data were analyzed using thematic analysis to identify the scoring pattern, threats, and weakness. This method allows us to evaluate the depth, clarity, and consistency of Sharia risk disclosure. Now, okay, now let's move on to the key finding. Our findings can be divided into 4 main points. First, governance disclosure is generally strong. Most Takaful operators clearly outline their Sharia governance structure, committee rules, and oversight function. Secondly, Sharia risk management disclosure is moderate. Operators acknowledge that processes exist, but they rarely explain how risks are actually identified, monitored, or mitigated. This lack of details make it difficult for stakeholders to assess the robustness of their controls. Third, reporting of Sharia non-compliance effect is very weak. Most operators simply stated that no major non-compliance occurred without providing any details. Interview revealed that companies are often reluctant to disclose such incidents due to reputational concern. And finally, disclosures are inconsistent across operators, making comparison difficult and reducing overall transparency. Now let's move on to the discussion. Our findings shows that our findings show that while most operators meet the basic requirements set by Bank Negara Malaysia, the depth and quality of disclosure still falls short of what is expected by AAOIFI standards and what stakeholders need for proper evaluation. So these results support previous study, which also found strong governance reporting, but weak operational risk and non-compliance reporting. From a theoretical perspective, the finding highlights gaps in accountability. From a practical perspective, limited transparency may reduce stakeholder trust, weaken public confidence, and affect the credibility of the Takaful industry. To strengthen Sharia governance, operators must go beyond minimal compliance and provide more detailed, meaningful disclosure. In conclusion, the study finds that Sharia risk disclosure practice in Malaysian Takaful operators are moderately effective. Governance-related information is clearly reported, which is a positive sign. However, disclosure related to Sharia risk management process and non-compliance effects require significant improvement. To enhance transparency and accountability, Takaful operators should provide more detailed risk reporting, adopt standardized disclosure format, and be more transparent about non-compliance cases. Improving those areas will strengthen stakeholder confidence and support the long-term sustainability of the Takaful industry in Malaysia. So those are the reference. And thank you. Jazakumullah khair.